Welcome back to Around the Shoe on the Bill and Doug Show. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis, joined by two outstanding members of the Ohio State Beat every Monday. Welcome to the first members of the Three Timers Club here on Around the Shoe. Andrew Gillis and Stephen Means from Cleveland.com. Andrew, congratulations. Thanks for being here.
You said we're going to get a certificate. I'm just waiting for that. I was only here for the prize. So
yeah,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll get the intern on that. Stephen, thanks as always for being here. It's a Jeremiah Smith episode. If we had done a Jeremiah Smith episode and had not invited you, we would have justifiably heard about it.
We'd have been fighting in the way. And Bill is significantly larger than me, but on that day, I would have won.
You're scrappy.
Yeah.
Crazy beats tough. Crazy beats big.
That's true. People are very interested in who I'm going to fight next, and that would have been it. And it would have been Stephen Means bringing the heat to me. This is a Jeremiah Smith exclusive episode, which means we might do a little bit of that in there. How's that look to everybody? Hello, I'm Jeremiah Smith. If you're listening on a podcast, we have the Jeremiah Smith photo just hanging out there in the middle of the screen. We don't have to have it up there the whole time, Bill, but I mean, like, come on, right? I mean, that brings the eyeballs in, doesn't it? Come on.
You're just proud of your Photoshop work to remove the background from the picture.
Yeah,
I get it.
It is. This is the most advanced graphic design I've ever done. We are going to talk about Jeremiah Smith exclusively on this show because we did get to speak with him for the first time since before the Cotton Bowl on Saturday at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We had Cortez Hankton, the receivers coach. We had Jeremiah Smith. And so guess what? If we're going to talk to the best receiver in college football, the best player in college football, maybe, we are going to talk about the best receiver in college football. 5 topics, 5 questions with Bill, with me, with Andrew, with Stephen. Andrew Gillis, we will start with you. And the question is this. We were all there at Jeremiah Smith's interview on Saturday. What was the most interesting thing that he said? What caught your ear when you got this guy sitting down, entering his 3rd season of college football, and you think, oh, my goodness, Jeremiah, that was pretty interesting?
I really didn't want to go first for this one because I wanted to hear what everybody else had to say. But the one where, you're taking your recorder, you're trying to listen intently, and your head snaps up was when he started talking about a certain program. And he said that at the end of the year, a certain program was going to come at me very hard. He said, I'm not going to say any names, but I think we all know who that is. And I don't know, maybe that was just only interesting to me, but just the fact that we live in this world where you mentioned that last time we talked to him was before the Cotton Bowl. And he said, like, yeah, if Miami was in this position, maybe I would have been at Miami. Maybe if they had the program right, I would have been there. And the next time we talked to him, he goes, well, essentially they tried and they didn't succeed. Because Doug, I think you asked him the question before that, was it ever a doubt that you were going to be here? And he said, no, I was always going to be at Ohio State. But it was kind of a Jeremiah Smith thing that, we live in this world where, the best player in college football can be, poked and prodded at, and that's a big deal for Ohio State. But it was just interesting to me that people can just almost like speak freely about this now, right? In recruiting, I hear about this a lot where it's like, kid will pull me aside or whatever. And, this school's trying or this coach is trying, but I'm telling them no. And you haven't signed pen to paper, so it's a little bit more excusable. This is just openly tampering.
Yeah.
And like every program and every team, I guess, does this. But for him to say that, I went, whoa, he just kind of said it. Like, he just admitted it out loud. So that was the one for me where I went like, whoa, like he says a lot. I'm surprised at that.
I will say, did you guys get on the old Twitter machine on Saturday then? There were some Miami folks who didn't love that. Like there was definitely like that.
Miami folks had something to say on the internet. Are you serious?
I don't think he said it like in an inflammatory way. And he almost was like, well, I'm not going to say their name, but I mean, come on, what are we doing here? But, it's one of those things where like the stuff happens, but then like there were Miami fans who almost like took offense at the implication of a thing that almost like is certainly true, but it's just, I don't know, Stephen, you have like you know what I mean? Like, it's like they were mad, but it's like, what are you mad about?
Yeah, you were at Cleveland.com in 2010 when LeBron left Cleveland. and went to ironically went to Miami. That's the trade-off. They got LeBron for 4 years. We get JJ for 3 years, and we're all good. It's but
wait, write down that story idea.
It's like, I know you're mad about LeBron. There's a preschooler right now that is going to even this all out.
It's in here. It's in here. I just didn't get to it before the Cotton Bowl. But it felt like the entire time LeBron was down there in Miami, there was social media was what it is today, but you could just feel the hurt from fans in Cleveland. And it just never went away. And it felt like every time there was a chance to ask LeBron about Cleveland, he got asked about Cleveland. And even if he gave the most obvious, well, no, duh, you tried to go get the best player in the world, you would feel Cleveland fans like, stop taunting us. You didn't have to leave us. You chose to leave. And I am almost wondering what Jeremiah's relationship is with like Miami in general right now, because, well, no, duh, Miami tried to come get the best player in the country. Imagine pairing that with Malachi Toney. Right. I mean, you said it, Doug, on your own podcast. Like, do you think Miami would be the favorite right now if they added Jeremiah Smith? Maybe. But it is interesting where he doesn't even have to say Miami's name, but Miami knows everything Jeremiah says. And so if it even feels like he's hinting at Miami, it becomes a thing. Yeah. Which would be so ironic if the Dolphins end up with like the number 2 pick in the NFL draft next April and he goes home. But it's he didn't stay home. Somehow Miami found out a way to be good anyway. And so now it isn't like well, no, duh, you didn't stay home to Miami. It's a crapshoot. They're a good football program and you're here. And they're going to let you hear about it every time they get a chance to let you hear about it. And I almost wonder how he feels about that away from the microphones, that like, he should be a hero down there. And now it feels like it's 50-50. You're a hero to some, while we're others, you're the guy who's like a traitor, essentially.
It is interesting. And I think there maybe is a distinction here between Miami, the university and the football program, and Miami, the community and the city. Yeah. And that like, you know, that there's certainly some of the reaction on Twitter was like, you know, the real Miami guys stay home and do this for the community and like do it for the state, do it for the city, which if he was from Ohio and had gone to Miami and like all of this was in reverse and he was like, well, you know what, that school in scarlet and gray was trying to come get me, but I was like, no, I'm not doing it. People in Ohio would be like, you left us, keep our name. Like you can see it in reverse. Yeah, for sure. Buckeyes fans would be mad, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, you feel scorned, and I think there's only kind of one way to react. When that happens, all you guys have me thinking about now is what's going to happen when the Dolphins have the first pick in the draft next year and don't take Jeremiah because they need a quarterback.
They're going to take a kid from Michigan and Dante Moore, and they're going to be like, come on down, buddy. And everybody's going to be pissed.
Wow. Because I was trying to think like stink for Smith, junk it up for JJ, like whatever the billboard should be in Miami this year to just blow it and be terrible. But they got Malik Willis. They're set. They just need to.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, if they're going to pay him like he's a starter, so then maybe Jeremiah can go home. This will all be fine.
That would be a riot, right? On the streets of Miami, if they had the number 1 pick and didn't take Jeremiah Smith, that would be okay.
They picked Ted Ginn over Brady Quinn, and people lost their minds. Like,
yeah, but neither one of those dudes grew up 45 minutes.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You think that was bad?
You want to make some more LeBron comparisons, yeah.
Now I'm envisioning Stephen Means reporting live from the streets of Miami on draft day as the city burns behind him after the Dolphins took Arch Manning number 1. And he's like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of here alive, but this is certainly a questionable decision. Reporting on the Jeremiah Smith beat, I'm Stephen Means. All right, Stephen, what would it was interesting. Like it was a pretty good 7 minutes with JJ. What'd you think? What caught your ears? The same thing or something different?
Yeah, no, it's something different. I've always appreciated how real JJ keeps it up there and his ability to, if we're thinking it, he's definitely thinking it too. You are not crazy, media member, for thinking this. So he got to ask like, hey, what do you want to get better at this year? And immediately be better at yards after the catch. It has been an emphasis in the receiver room this year. I think we were like the worst team in yards after the catch last year. We didn't have any guys that had juice with the ball in their hands, and I feel like he has a podcast. I just feel like he has a podcast because I'm sorry. We all saw it. Hey, it feels like everything you do, the ball has to travel 40 yards in order to get there. Like Ohio State's offense turned into run it with Bo, replace Bo with C.J. Donaldson on 3rd and long, play action deep shot to Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate. More often than not, they're going to catch it. That's fine. But you have a young quarterback, and that worked until you ran into Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain in Indiana, and all of a sudden your offensive line couldn't hold up. So I was thinking about what he meant by worst. Like, did he mean worst in the Big Ten? Did he mean worst in the country? Like, worst we've ever seen in the history of football? And so I did find some stats that kind of meshed with worst. I looked up every wide receiver trio that Ohio State has had on this side of COVID. So in 2021, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith-Njigba combined to average 6.2 yards after the catch. In 2022, Marv, Julian, and Emeka combined to average 6 yards after the catch. In 2023, Marv, Julian, and Emeka combined to average 7.1 yards after the catch. In 2024, JJ, Carnell, and Emeka, 5.7 yards after the catch. Last year, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Ennis, 4.4 yards after the catch is what they are. So I am going to take worst, meaning, I mean, this side of COVID, we've never had a group be under 5 yards after the catch combined with the starting wide receivers until last year. And I just felt like that played as much of a role in why they ended up losing the last 2 games as the offensive line breaking down, as offensive coordinator who had never done this before, is that they, whether it was because they didn't have it as a skill set or they didn't try to tap into it, Ohio State has gotten away from 2017, 2018, 2019. We have faster guys than you. Let's run mesh routes and shallow routes and dig routes, get the ball in the hands of these guys on the run, and then make somebody miss, and let's go to the house. That's not been where they were at. So I think whether you're a fan and you heard Jeremiah Smith say that, or you're a media member who has been screaming it into a microphone for the last 3 months, it was good to hear not just a coach who's on the outside looking in, but the best player on the team say something that was quite obvious, that we were not good at this last year. We need to be better at this, and it starts with me.
Yeah, introspective, right? It's like, hey, guy who's really good. What do you think? Well, I'm not that good at this. Bill, you looked a couple of those stats too. I mean, those are really interesting stats, Stephen, because again, is it not the best standard for Ohio State is Ohio State? So it's like to go through and it's like, okay, well, look, this is what Garrett and Chris and JSN did. Like, this is the standard, and you guys were not up to that. But also, like, nationally, they weren't that good, Bill, right?
They were not. So yeah, I've been looking up numbers for this show, and I'm gonna write a story about that too on the Substack. And I've been getting angry at the numbers. They were. Oh,
can you believe this? Goodbye. I gotta write this. Yeah.
Yards after the catch per reception. So the average, they were 106th in the country last year, 5.19. That is the first time since 2020 they've been below 6. Usually they're like middle of the pack nationally, to be honest. Like, they've only been very good under Ryan Day 1 year. That was in 2021 when they were 12th, when that passing offense was electric. So it's not like this is not something that they are routinely elite at. They were bad at last year. They're kind of like routinely average at it, and they were bad at it last year, but it still doesn't make any sense. And I think Steven's right to compare it to past seasons of Ohio State and those sort of starting trios and how those guys performed. And I've been really digging in this stuff relative to this. I got some numbers for you guys. Do you know how many times in the last 2 years that Jeremiah Smith has run a slant?
Oh no. I remember one. Is it one?
I know it's, yeah.
The one you remember is the one where he caught and ran through 5 defenders and scored a touchdown.
Yeah. I like that one.
The answer it's 37, which may be higher than you would have assumed. Do you know how many times he's run a drag route? I'm just looking at stuff like what's quick and moving over the middle of the field. How many times do you think Jeremiah's run a drag route?
I would say it's less than 25.
Close. It's 30.
Okay.
How many times has he run a curl or a hitch?
Every single play of every single time he is on the field, it is a curl, a hitch, or a 9 route. They don't know what a route tree is, so I'm excited. I'm sorry. I'm getting upset.
148.
Okay. I always feel like that's a little bit of an evolution for a quarterback, is sort of like throwing that stuff in the middle of the field on the move. I wonder how much of that is related to like, well, year one, it was Will Howard, who's a veteran, but is like learning the offense and they're just trying to, figure it out. And then year two is Julian Sand as a second-year player, first-year starter. And could the evolution of the quarterback, Julian back for year or two as a starter, lead to more of these middle of the field on the move kind of throws? Or maybe just this show will lead to more of these throws, because we know you're listening, Arthur. Come on, man. What are we doing? Stephen and Landis are coming for you.
Ban curl flats in the Woody.
That's right.
They're going to run it 25 times in the spring game. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Curl flats is the passing edition of stretch to the boundary.
You're absolutely right, partner.
Oh, my God. Look at you guys. God, just a bunch of ball knowers getting mad at the best receiver. But here's the thing that you like. And then the best receiver in the country is like, yeah, he's got one arm around Steven and one arm around Landis. He's like, what are we doing with these routes, guys? Come on. You guys are like, yes, my guy. Landis, what did you think was the most interesting thing that JJ said?
I'm excited to see what like angry Jeremiah does this year, right? Like, he's mad that he didn't win the Blitnikoff. He's mad that he missed that block and then allowed for the count to Keontae Scott pick 6. And it's like, you've been great the last 2 years without much of a reason to be angry. What's it going to look like now that you're pissed off and very good? So, like, I think if we're looking for like an uptick in production or like whatever, like I get like a different level of play or energy or urgency out of Jeremiah, which I don't know that people think that's been lacking in any regard the last 2 years, but I think we'll see it. Like the fact that he sort of went to that play in the Miami game on his own. And he didn't talk about the Blitnikoff, I don't think, on Saturday, but he certainly had feelings about it on social media, which I don't blame him because he should have won last year. I'm excited. I like when guys who are very good are very angry, because usually that leads to good things on the field. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a villain version of Jeremiah on the field this year. That should be pretty entertaining.
Oh yeah. Angry Jeremiah is good. I will say, I almost was tempted to make this show just like 5 questions on over-unders, like 1,400 receiving yards, over or under, like all that kind of stuff. Because, Stephen, you did ask him about sort of his awareness of Ohio State record books. And he said, like, yeah, like I know. Like he didn't poo-poo it. It wasn't like it's the main focus of his life, but that he is in position, like, if he's healthy and has a normal year, anything like the first 2, he's going to break every career record at Ohio State. And you asked it, Stephen. I just thought like it was enough of an acknowledgement of like your place in history without dwelling on it, but without like swatting it away, that he was sort of like, yeah, I know Emeka has this many catches and Olave has this many touchdowns. And like sometimes when you ask guys those questions, they just dismiss it, but he didn't completely dismiss it, which I thought was just like, okay, you're allowed to acknowledge that you've got a legacy on the line here.
Yeah, remember when we were doing Hake and Jackson Smith the Jig Big at 2,000-yard podcast a couple of years ago? And then we asked Jackson about it, and he was like, yeah, that's cool. Anyway, I just want to win a national title. And then I went in there and asked Marv, like, hey, I think you're going to be awesome. Do you think you're going to be awesome? And he's like, I don't know. I guess we'll see. And there's nothing wrong with that humility. Yeah. But also, it's okay to go, while I'm not just like focused on just the records, Emeka, Michael Jenkins, and Chris Olave, I am coming for your heads. It's okay to say that. So I like this room. I like the fact that we have more diva wide receivers. We got to get away from the nice guy wide receivers. Get back to the guys who talk a little trash.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, it's good. And he has a very good, I just thought, did you guys think generally, Bill and I were talking about it, he just seemed like a little more open, like a little more like willing to like give longer answers. And it happens with everybody. You're in your 3rd year, you're a veteran, you're sure of yourself. You're not worried about, am I going to say something wrong? But I thought it was just like, yeah, this is going to be fun to watch this guy play football for last year in Columbus. But like, it's also going to be fun to talk with him about playing football, because like I think he's ready for all of it.
Well, I think it was interesting too. Like his freshman year, like it wasn't like this is new. Like his freshman year, I forget when it was that interview, but they asked him about the Oregon OPI, and he was like, "I guess you can't be physical in football anymore." And it's like that a freshman would say this when, like, look, it was an offensive pass interference. His arms extended. The guy went flying 5 yards back. It was an offensive pass interference. But for him to just like get to the mic and say that, I think Doug's right that he feels more comfortable maybe explaining things. But that mentality has certainly like always been there for him since he got here.
That's true. That's very true. All right. Let's get to question number 2. Stephen, we'll start with you again. I didn't just want to do only stats, right? But I think there's a lot of interesting statistical stuff here. Jeremiah Smith last year averaged 6.7 catches per game. How many catches would you like to see him average this year? And just like we could have a target discussion, which is certainly part of the catch discussion. Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. went from 5.9 catches per game in 2022 to 5.6 in 2023. And some of this conversation is how teams are going to defend you. Are they going to take you away? I think some of the conversation is like who's around you. It's partly your quarterback thing. It's what your offensive coordinator wants to do. But let's set a good number, Stephen. How many catches per game should JJ be getting this year?
Yeah, I said 8 catches per game on 10 to 12 targets. And okay. I kind of turned it into a targets conversation for me because the more times you throw it at him, the more times he's going to catch it. He's got, I think, 5 or 6 10-target games in his career. He's got Oregon twice in 2024. And then last year he had Texas, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Purdue. I just don't think that's enough. Like, that's got to go. I almost would be okay with if we looked at Ohio State's play calling in a game. It was like, oh, Jeremiah Smith got the ball once every 6 plays. I don't think that is a bad thing. And it's not just because I think he's a good football player. I'm trying to think about what has to happen for Ohio State to get to what, at least right now, looks like a harder schedule, like a significantly harder schedule where they can't just scrimmage teams every Saturday. Do you think Ohio State can beat Indiana, Oregon, USC, Texas, Michigan, and win a Big Ten championship game if Jeremiah Smith is averaging 5 catches a game? Probably not. Probably not. That's just the way the schedule might work out this year. I would almost want you to put the ball in your best player's hands as much as possible, which is why when Stephon asked Arthur Smith, hey, can you give the ball to Jeremiah Smith too many times? The first thing he said was, well, I gave the ball to Derrick Henry 300 plus times. So that, again, if you're a fan, because that's why we're there, we're in the Woody on behalf of the fans. I think between Arthur Smith, Jeremiah Smith, and Cortez Hankton, we heard some things where I don't think me saying, hey, this kid should touch the ball 8 times a game with 10 to 12 targets. I don't think that is an unrealistic expectation based off the way the 3 most important people to making that happen have talked about Jeremiah Smith so far. Okay.
Bill, what's your number?
I would maybe twist it a little bit and make it touches rather than just receptions and say I'd like the ball in his hands 10 times a game, whichever combination that needs to be. Obviously, I don't think he's going to average like 1 rushing attempt per game. So we're still talking primarily catches, but I think he had 6 rushing attempts as a freshman and 3 last year. So he's got 9 in 2 years. I think he could have like 10 this year, maybe on top of whatever he gets receiving wise. I do think the target share needs to go up some. I like to see that number be double digits consistently. And then I think you are talking about a guy who's probably going to get the ball in his hands about 10 times or more per game. It's hard. I understand that, especially when he's still playing outside as much as he is. I think part of this conversation, it also ties into the yak conversation, is can you move him around more? I kind of believe that Arthur Smith will. And watching Arthur Smith, or even talking about Arthur Smith, like people sort of make jokes about like Jonnu Smith, right? Like you move Jonnu Smith around a lot and throw him the ball some, and Jonnu Smith is like basically a big receiver. I'm not saying that he and Jeremiah Smith are the exact same player, but I wonder if, and you can look at the way that Arthur Smith used Kyle Pitts too. Like I just wonder if there's some more creative ways to align Jeremiah that would make getting him the ball a little easier than it is sometimes. Because he was also asked, I think Austin Ward asked him about seeing like double and triple coverage and cloud coverage all the time, and obviously you get frustrated by that, and you can only do so much, I think, to combat it. But I would say that maybe Ohio State didn't do enough last year to try to combat that. So I would like to see him move around a little bit more. And I think if he does that, then this number of targets and catches goes up with it.
I do think like this is the Alonzo Mourning meme, right? Which is Arthur Smith likes to throw the ball to tight ends, but he thinks of Jeremiah Smith as a tight end. Oh, yeah, like he just likes big physical guys. Oh, like let's do this. I'm gonna be I'm not going to ask for much. I just don't want it to go down. And this is one of the things, I do think it's a similar conversation to Marv, right? That I do, like you did, Marvin Harrison Jr. had such an unbelievable first year as a starter. And then like the next year, like everybody was like kind of all over him, and his production like went slightly down. And so I'll say like 7 per game, because here's the thing too. Ohio State's never had 100 reception season. That Jackson Smith-Njigba holds the record currently with 95. There have been like more than 100 catch seasons in college football history. Like, can we get triple digits for a Buckeye on the board? Is that too much to ask? Like, I don't think the ghost of Woody Hayes is going to have a problem with that. Like, I mean, again, if it's Woody Hayes is like, throw this guy. Well, he's a big physical guy. It's like, okay, we're fine. I'm not worried about it, but I'm curious about how much defenses will sell out to stop him, especially like as you're trying to figure out who's the second most dangerous pass catcher on the field. And then will you like give in to the double coverage and be like, well, they took him away, or will you fight it? And will you move him around and put him in motion and get him touches in unique ways? Like, is anybody else like a little curious about that? And maybe using, because I felt like Marvin, I feel like especially early that year, like they kind of had trouble getting him the ball in September, and then they kind of figured it out later in the year. I don't think it would be a great thing for Ohio State if it feels like, oh yeah, they played Texas and he had like 4 catches on 7 targets because like Texas took him out of the game, and we saw Texas do that before, right? Or like after Oregon, like as a freshman, like I just like that world. Like we've seen it before. He's 2 years older. A lot has changed, but I'm not dismissing that idea. Right? Is that on anybody else's mind at all?
I think the one reason if I would say I was 40% worried about it, maybe I'm only like 15% worried about it, is he does have the benefit that maybe the other receivers here haven't had, and it's that he gets to have the same quarterback. Again, right? Like Marv went from CJ to Kyle. Even Garrett and Chris went from Justin to CJ. Mecca had 3 different quarterbacks here as a starting receiver. He's the one guy who gets, I had Julian for a year, and now I get Julian for a second year. Jackson would have gotten that in 2022, but thanks to a hammy, we never really got to see what that is going to look like. And so if you've already got chemistry with the quarterback baked in because you played, 14 games together, and I have a weird feeling that, especially early in the year, with all due respect to the other 9 guys in the room, Julian Sand might major and minor in Jeremiah Smith. That might just solve itself, because some of the conversations might just be, I'm just going to throw out the 4. I know what you're saying in my helmet right now, but I'm just going to throw out the 4 and we're going to see what happens.
I'm going to make a t-shirt with this on it, and I'm going to give it to Julian Sand. And I'm just going to ask him, or Julian Sand, what if Julian Sand got this photo of Jeremiah tattooed right on his chest, right? Like right down, like from your nibs right down to your belly button. It's like, I just got a giant Jeremiah Smith.
And it says, never forget.
And it's like, oh my God, what happened to Jeremiah? It's like, oh no, they just only threw him the ball 5 times against Texas. It's fine. He's okay. They just need to throw him the ball more. All right, Andrew, what's your number here?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle, literally in the middle between Doug and Steven. I'm at 7.5. That'd be 90 over a 12-game span. So you play 2 postseason games, that gets you into triple digits. Like, I do agree with Doug of this idea of, if teams are just going to sell out, and what if Chris Henry Jr. pops and Chris Henry Jr. is really good, or you find a Kyle Parker, Brandon Ennis, somebody, Devin McEwen, somebody on this receiving core takes a step. The quarterback brain part of this is fascinating, because like you were saying, it's like, hey, there's JJ, never forget, but also Brandon Ennis is 4 yards open across the middle. Like, your brain is going to tell you to do that, but JJ's on the other side. Like, it's a rewiring, I think, where you're probably just going to throw it to the open guy, and that's fine. The 7.5 number, I think, is going to be varied, because Steven was mentioning their schedule, and that's true. You're going to play a lot more. You got Oregon, Indiana, Michigan, Texas. Like, you got those big games on the schedule, and you're going to hit them. But I wonder if that almost causes Ohio State to go, hey, JJ, he went 4 for 120 and 2 touchdowns against Maryland, and we're up 24-0 in the second quarter. Put some slides on, kick your feet up. You're good. We have a war. We got Indiana coming up soon, or hey, USC. We blew through them, and now we got Northwestern. Like Northwestern, fine. Maybe 3 catches and 90 yards and a touchdown, and then you're good. You show up, you make your spectacular play or two, and then you're done because hey, Oregon's coming down the line. Hey, Michigan's coming down the line. I wonder if that's part of it. So I think you can end up at 7.5 with a situation where like you end up with 4 catches against Maryland.
2 extremes.
Yeah, 5 catches against Iowa, and then 9 against Texas, 10 against Texas. And then the following week or whatever, it's, you play Oregon, the Oregon Northwestern swing. You get 15 catches in those 2 weeks. It's just 12-3, if that.
Yeah. Okay. But we'll have a little bit more of a statistical conversation, including with question number 3, Bill, for you. There are 24 college football receivers who have at least 4,000 career yards. And to be honest, like a lot of these guys are sort of like, some lower level guys, or they're air raid guys or that kind of thing. It's not like 4,000 career receiving yards just is, what every good receiver does. Jeremiah is at 2,554. What's the % chance that he gets to 4,000 career receiving yards? He would need 1,446 to get there. If he did that, that would be the second highest single season total in Ohio State history. David Boston's at 1,435. JSN has the best at 1,606. So Landis, 4,000. Will he get to 4,000? What %?
You're sort of asking what's the % chance that Ohio State's going to play for a national championship, because he's going to need those games, right? Unless we think his average is going to go up a lot, because if he just played to his career average, he would need to play more than 16 games. Yeah. So, but I think his career average will go up this year for some of the reasons we sort of addressed already. So I don't know. I'd say like 60% maybe that he gets here. That's a lot. That's a lot of yards. That's a heck of a season to put together, and you have to factor in like how much is Ohio State going to run the ball. I think some of what Andrew touched on there too is like, what's the load management situation for Jeremiah look like? So I don't know. I'm not like super bullish on the idea of him getting there. I was looking at this the other day actually to see how far away he was from 4,000. I think it's within the realm of possibility, sure, but I don't think it's really like all that close to a guarantee. So I'll say 60%.
Okay. And then again, this folds back into the ongoing, never-ending pace of play discussion around Ohio State, which is like, of all the reasons to speed up a little bit, I think there are football reasons. I think there's plenty of reasons. It's not really, but like, it's fun, isn't it? Isn't like, can we just get a little more JJ? Like more plays is more Jeremiah. Like it's not a terrible idea. I'll say 30%, just because I do think it's one of those things. 15 games at 100 yards a game is like what would get him there. But that's both ends of the spectrum. That's like, not being abducted by aliens like he was for a little bit last season. That's pace of play. That's, do you stay in games and blowouts or not? But I do think, Andrew, you make an interesting point of like the fact that they actually are playing a tougher schedule probably increases the chances of some of this. It's like, we need him on the field. We need to feed him in order to win. It's not like a vanity project to just get Jeremiah Smith empty yards. It's like, no, he's the best player on our team. We're trying to beat some excellent teams. He has to have a big game for us to win. It's hard because I think like Ohio State fans, I think like you want to say 100. It's like, what? 1446? Come on. That's in the bag. But I'm already like, girding myself for like, like you come away from the Texas game and it's like, man, defenses are going to make his life difficult. So I'll say 30%. Andrew, what's your number?
Yeah, this was maybe the harder question that we had. I said 51 because I think maybe it's more likely it happens than not, but it's really, really close to a coin flip. Kind of for all the reasons that we talked about, where it's just, you said it, Doug. What if we get out of that Texas game and we go, oh, this is just the Jordan rules, but in football, and the defense is going to say not him, and Brandon Innes or Devin McEwen or Kyle Parker or Christian Jr. maybe all of them, like they're all going to be beneficiaries of this, and it's just going to be really difficult for JJ. But Bill was right. I think 1446, like that feels you can get there if you play a postseason game or two, because I guess the negative side of this exists where you get through the Texas game and he had 5 catches for 31 yards. It's not great. I mean, maybe Ohio State won the game. Maybe Ohio State looked good offensively and they just shut down JJ. It's just, here's how this happened. But there's also the possibility that, like I said, he goes 4 for 120 against Maryland. There's also the possibility he goes like 5 for 210 against Ball State, or 5 for 210 against Kent State, and you're like, hey, that helps. So I said 51 just because I don't want to be in the business of betting against something Jeremiah Smith can do, but
he doesn't want this to get clipped. So in 6 months when he does it,
I mean, it is
going
to be difficult.
Media.
It is going to be difficult. So I kind of went coin flip, but I lean JJ.
Stephen, drop your number and let's see if it's under 90.
What are we doing? I feel like there's too many adults on this podcast. Look what this offensive coaching staff has done. We don't even want to have fun anymore because we know they're going to play slow as can be. I guess before I drop my number, I want to ask, do we have to let the dream of what 2021 was go in terms of passing attacks at Ohio State?
I don't know that they'll ever have that much volume again. Yeah.
Okay.
It's and that's both a conversation about run pass balance and also number of plays, pace of play. You need both combined, right? You need to be willing to like throw the ball like 60% of the time and also play reasonably fast, right, Stephen? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, personnel. I mean, what was that offense? It was a number 2 pick in the draft, three bona fide wide receiver ones in the NFL, and a top 60 pick at running back. Like, I just don't know. I was rewatching that Maryland game from 2021 a couple of days ago, and they were putting up their recruiting rankings, and it's like, well, this guy was a 5-star, and this guy was a 5-star, and it's like, they've had good players, but I don't know if they've had that since. But also the defense stunk. The defense is not going to stink this year in a way where we're asking. Because the thing about, you guys keep going, they might need to play 16 games. And the first thing I thought of in my head was, well, Jackson did this in 13 games, and he had 12 yards in the first game. But then you bake in
but he had like half the yards against a running back.
That's what I was going to say. The 2 games where like a bulk of those came in were Nebraska and Utah, who was playing Clark Phillips and the running backs.
Right.
And so I think 2021 has ruined me. And I need to let it go.
Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry that happened to you, Stephen.
Yeah, it's been a rough time for me. Or do I just look at it from a different point of view? You're correct. Jackson had 347 yards against running backs. Also, if he doesn't have 347 yards, Ohio State doesn't win the football game. Let's just be frank about that. He had 240 yards against Nebraska. Also, if he doesn't have 240 yards, Ohio State probably loses that football game. So I said 80%.
Oh, look at you. You're so grown up. You held yourself to 80.
I did. I was ready to go. When you first sent the list of questions, I was like, he's definitely, it's 1,400 yards. What do you mean? Is he going to get that? What are we talking about here? But I'll be an adult. The 20% is because what if this coaching staff starts overthinking it again? And trying to save themselves and, health and all those different things that matter. And so they're playing too slow. What if teams just, to the point of Gillis, is like, anybody's allowed to beat us, but you're not going to beat us with number 4. We're just not going to let that happen. But the other side of that coin is calling me of Arthur Smith said Derrick Henry, and he didn't have to.
It's talking to you like the Green Goblin mask.
It is. It is. It is. And it's just, listen, we don't know about these other receivers yet. I think we can be excited, but he is still the only person in that room that we are 1,000% sure of what he is going to be this year, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And so until they start playing football, everybody else is an idea and Jeremiah Smith is reality. And I'm going to live in that reality of right now, it's March 30th as we're recording this. I would say it's more likely that Jeremiah Smith has 1,500 yards than there are like 3 receivers with 600 yards.
And this it is an interesting part of this conversation that, like, for Ohio State fans, for the Ohio State offense, like, you want to see other receivers develop, but if they don't, then you might just have to throw
the graphic up, Doug. Put the graphic up.
26 times a game. It's like, oh no, our other receivers didn't develop. What are we gonna do? Oh, we're gonna do that. Okay, we're good. For the podcast listeners, Jeremiah Smith is on the screen again. To what you Andrew and Stephen, what both you guys have been talking about. He has 3 games in his career of more than 150 receiving yards. His top 2 games in receiving yards against number 1 Oregon in the Rose Bowl and against Miami last year. Like, he has his biggest games when they need him the most. So the idea of there are going to be more opportunities to need him is like, okay, that actually could be quite like a real thing here. So we have more questions along these lines. We'll get to number 4. We'll start with me. Jeremiah Smith is tied for 7th in Heisman odds at 13-1. Arch Manning and CJ Carr 8-1, Trinidad Chambliss 10-1, Julian Sayin, Josh Hoover, Dante Moore, the Big Ten quarterback trifecta at 12-1. JJ is tied with Miami quarterback Darian Mintz at 13-1. What word or phrase would you use to describe Smith's Heisman chances? And I think this is going to get into a little bit of question number 5, which does relate to DeVonta Smith and his Heisman year at Alabama. And I think it's singular. I actually think sort of like the thing that screwed up Jeremiah as a Heisman candidate last year the most was Carnell Tate. But Carnell Tate was so good. It was like, well, I mean, they're equal. Like, I don't know how to. And then the result was, it's like, who's Ohio State's Heisman candidate? You can't pick a receiver. Then they both get a little bit hurt. It's like, okay, it's the quarterback. The quarterback goes to New York. I said this a year ago. I don't actually think Heisman campaigns matter that much. I do think schools, when they have multiple good players, need to help voters by saying, this is our Heisman candidate. And I sort of said, like, I think maybe last year, maybe it made sense, make it Julian's turn. I think it's Jeremiah's turn. And so I think, like but I think the thing that would lead into that is the more they rely on him as like the whole passing offense, the better his Heisman chances are. And there's a chance that like Devin McEwen blows a hole in Jeremiah Smith's Heisman chances by being awesome, which is great, but also maybe not great for this, because then you're like, what are we supposed to do? Jeremiah has 1,200 receiving yards, but Devin McEwen has 900. It's like, okay. DeVonta Smith was like, once Jalen Waddle got hurt that year, was like a one-man offense for Alabama, and that's how he won. So I think, to me, it's singular. Like, you have to be almost the entire passing offense to really make a run at the Heisman. Andrew, what's your word or phrase?
Uncontrollable, because there are words that, or there are things in, Ohio State's sphere offensively that, I mean, JJ's not going to dictate. Like, JJ, I don't think is walking into coaches' meetings going, we should play faster this year. I mean, maybe he can, maybe he will, maybe they'll listen to him. But like, if Arthur Smith and Ryan Day say, actually, last year playing slow would have worked, we just screwed up, and that was why it didn't work. Like, maybe they think that's the same problem. So it depends on that. It depends on the receivers, like you were mentioning, Doug. Like, what if Brandon Inniss takes that step, and we're looking at Brandon Inniss as a top 50 NFL draft pick? And is it going to be easy to give JJ the Heisman if, because there's a realistic amount of yards that Julian Sayin's going to throw for. If JJ's got 1,450 yards, let's say he barely gets 4,000, but Brandon Inniss is at 800 or 900, does that look as impressive, right? Like that's the other part. But then it goes back to kind of the Heisman just voting in general. You guys have talked about it. We've talked about it. I think there's kind of this like looming shadow of like, could Ohio State really go 9-3? Like what happens if Ohio State doesn't win some of those big games? Because I'm looking at the list right now, like Arch Manning and CJ Carr right now are at the top. JJ's not the entire offense, and they go 10-2 even. But CJ Carr and Notre Dame go 12-0.
Right.
And Carr looks awesome. he's a quarterback. I don't think anybody's going to dispute Jeremiah Smith is a better football player, but CJ Carr is leading the number 1 team in the college football playoff, and Notre Dame averaged 45 points a game. You know, I know they're scheduled this, they're scheduled that, but like the same thing goes for like Josh Hoover. Like, oh, Indiana did it again. Like there's all of these things where you kind of look elsewhere and go like, JJ can still be awesome. JJ can have 100 catches for 1,600 yards, but whether or not he wins the Heisman is really almost not even up to him, because it depends on other players at other schools. It depends on the philosophy that Ohio State wants to take offensively. It takes the other receivers on the depth chart. I mean, what if Ohio State has a 1,500-yard rusher in Bo Jackson because he's just like that or something like that? Like, there's all of these different things that can go wrong. So I actually don't hate the number. Like it's actually at 14-1 now. I actually don't hate that in terms of a betting odd, because he is the best player in college football. If you're gonna invest in something, make it him. But it's just so risky, and it's so up and down to where you could convince me he wins a Heisman Trophy. You could convince me he gets the 8th place in voting because we gotta give him that. He's the best player, but he's not a finalist.
Right. Okay. Stephen, what do you think here?
Dependent is my word. I actually think the Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith thing is going to be interesting because they did promote both of them. It's just one got hurt, missed a quarter and a half of football, and the other one kept playing football. I actually think Julian Sayin has a better chance of getting to New York, but if they both get there, Jeremiah Smith has a better chance of winning it because it's dependent. And I don't want to just like regurgitate what you guys all said. Yes, like what's the offense look like? How many quarterbacks does everybody fall in love with? Does the world just want to give the award to Arch Manning already and whatnot? But I do think, to take it from a different perspective of like, why did Marv get there? And it's just you watch games and we're like, I mean, come on, man. We know what their offense is. But I think he has even a step up from Marv, because I think what JJ needs this year is spotlight. He needs to constantly be in the eyes of voters every single Saturday. And I think when you have a schedule where Fox Big Noon Kickoff is going to be following around Ohio State for the next 4 months of fall, he's already the best player in the sport, and we already know what the Ohio State bubble is and the spotlight that comes with that. I think the opportunity is there for him to get there and actually win the award, simply because if you're watching this kid every single week and I don't know, he's mossing dudes and Oregon comes to town with their potentially really good secondary and he's lighting stuff up. Like I don't think it's impossible for Jeremiah Smith to win the award. I think it's going to depend on everything that you guys have listed out, but the runway for a non-quarterback at Ohio State in the time since I've been covering this team has maybe never been clearer than it is right now, where it felt like with Marvin and Chase, when they got there, it was a little bit more matter of fact after they did the things they were doing.
DeVonta Smith won the Heisman in 2020. Mac Jones, the quarterback for Alabama, finished 3rd, also got there, right? But it's like, but once you kind of, they both had great years. They were they won the national championship. They both were great statistically, but it was sort of like, okay, well, like we know it's the receiver first and then the quarterback. Bill, what's your word or phrase?
I don't know exactly how to put it, but it just feels like things are like syncing up for this to happen this year. So I don't know if it's like good timing or something like that is the correct phrase. Like, it's always been a little confusing, I think, to figure out who Ohio State's Heisman Trophy candidate is. If the season goes the way we think it'll go, I think it'll very clearly be Jeremiah. I remember like in 2021, CJ went to New York. Like I had Garrett Wilson on my ballot that year. I don't think I was a voter in 19, but it was hard to sort through Justin Fields, Chase Young, J.K. Dobbins that year, right? I think a lot of people like Julian Sayin. I don't think a lot of people think Julian Sayin is the best quarterback in the sport. So like he'll get some deserved Heisman love and consideration being a returning finalist. But I don't think they will. If Julian and Jeremiah both play really well this year, I don't think it'll be split between the two. I think it'll go to Jeremiah, because I think it's viewed more like Jeremiah is the one that is helping Julian more than the other way around. Combine that with Jeremiah's fame, I think there could be like a career legacy thing that maybe factors into some people's thinking that gets him on the ballot too. I do expect him to be more productive this year than he has been in his previous 2 years. I just like part of me thinks like Ohio State understands what's happening this year. Like they have a guy that they may never have again on this roster, and they don't want to let it go to waste. And I don't know if that means like the Heisman campaign starts week 1, but maybe it will. There's like different people running the athletic communications for Ohio State. Maybe it will. They've never really done that before, but I think those people could do that. I'd start it now. Why not? Like don't let people forget about what we're talking about here with singular greatness, like Doug is talking about. So, I get why the odds are what they are right now, and it is obviously a quarterback award. I tend to think it's pretty good value too, because I think he's going to make a really, really strong run at this, because it just feels like there's a lot of things kind of setting up to make it happen.
If there is anybody from Ohio State watching this show, you guys can have this photo for free. So like if you want to start the Heisman campaign around the photo, sorry to the podcast listeners. I mean, it's just a great high class photo, right? And of course he's a good player, whatever. But I think you could argue the photo is even better than the player is. This is the last thing.
You could make the statue that you want to.
Oh my God, that is the statue.
You want to get that campaign going?
Wait, do we get to be in it? Are we part of the statue?
Yeah, when I say statue, I mean it's Jeremiah and our 4 faces around.
Yeah, it's the screen grab of this, right?
If I'm going to go down in history as a sports writer, I want to be next to that guy.
But we all got to be like behind him with like a pen and paper, like acting like we're writing what he's saying.
That's right.
Like we're just describing his every movement.
Because I mean, the bottom line of this is he looks like a statue. Like that, like he already looks like one. Like he's built like a statue. So it really makes it pretty easy. Yeah. Question number 5. This is directly related to DeVonta Smith. Andrew, we'll start with you again. DeVonta Smith, his Heisman year in 2020, had 23 touchdown catches in 13 games. Is 23 touchdowns attainable at all? Jeremiah had 12 touchdowns in 13 games last year. He had 15 touchdowns in 16 games in 2024. Like it, yes or no? Is this even possible? This is like as crazy on the radar as I could think about. Is it even within the realm of possibility, Andrew?
Within the realm of possibility, like, sure, it's got like, but it's low. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think you're going to get close to it. So, like, you know, could Ohio State make a run in the national championship game? Ohio State plays 16 games. JJ ends up with 23 there. Sure. But it just 23 is a lot. Like I was looking this up. He had 37.5% of Julian's passing touchdowns last year. Like JJ accounted for that number. I don't know how many passing touchdowns like you guys think JJ or Julian's going to throw for this year. But I mean, if that number goes up even to like 45, that's like you're asking for more than half of his passing touchdowns to go to one guy. And that just feels unreasonable. You know, like I get it. Like I said, it's hard to be in the business of betting against Jeremiah Smith, but 23 is just so many because we talked about it. Defense is saying anybody but JJ. Like that's, I don't know, from the in between the 20s. You get in the red zone, especially, and like I guess he could always break one, but man, teams are really gonna say anybody but JJ down here. So, I mean, it's a tough word. Attainable is a tough word because I just don't think it's likely. I in fact I say I don't know if he's gonna get close to 23. But if Ohio State makes a run to a national championship game, him hitting it because he had 3 touchdowns against Kent State and Ball State and 3 against Maryland is not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Okay. Stephen, what do you think?
You don't know what's crazy? He had 16 before they got to the postseason. That's more than what Jeremiah had in 2024. Like, and then, I mean, we were there when Ohio State just got baptized by him a bunch of different times. I guess, what do we think his floor is? Like, what is his floor amount of touchdowns where we're like, okay, Ohio State had a quality offense? Because if you start there, and if that number is already high, then I can wrap my mind around it. Like, does he need to get 15? And we think that Ohio State like maximized him. And then after that, it's like, okay, how many games can he go off to where now, he had a 3 touchdown game here. He had a 3 touchdown game here. Now you're looking up. It's like, oh, what do you know? we're in Las Vegas and he's at 22, and if he scores twice today, he passes DeVonta Smith. I actually went up to him after his media session, had a conversation with him. I presented a bunch of different numbers to him, and he actually wasn't all that interested in the touchdown number. He was interested in the yardage number, going back to the original one. But I think this one is he would need multiple 3 and 4 touchdown games to make that happen. And I don't know if you can project something like that. So I am a little less. 23 is a lot of touchdowns. That's a lot. You can't have a bad game if you're going to get 23 touchdowns. And I mean, he is human. Last I checked. And so what if he has like 1 or 2 games where he only has like 45 yards and doesn't get into the end zone? It's fine because Ohio State won the game anyway. So I this one's I'm a little bit more out on the 23 touchdowns.
It really is. Like the DeVonta Smith thing is just such a it's like outrageous, but it's like almost like a mental exercise to think about that DeVonta Smith conference championship game and the 2 playoff games, 15 for 184 and 2 touchdowns, 7 for 130 and 3 touchdowns, and 12 for 215 and 3 touchdowns against Ohio State. Like that's the thing again we're talking about, where if you're talking about absolute statistical explosions, what if it's that he has a pretty good regular season and then Ohio State makes a playoff run where they're like, we're throwing it to JJ 17 times a game. And if he doesn't get 175, if he's not at 10 and 175 in every playoff game, we're doing something wrong. And we have a little bit of the evidence of his stats go up in big games. It just makes me think about that potential like postseason explosion. But Bill, what are you thinking here?
I think it's going to be really difficult for him to do that. There hasn't been a player who has had 20 touchdowns receiving since DeVonta Smith did that. There have been 9 20 touchdown seasons since 2000. This is really difficult to pull off.
Okay.
I do think I'm looking at DeVonta's 2020 season, and like his percentage of slot snaps I think went up a little bit after Mechie got hurt. Is that right that year?
Waddle
got hurt. Yeah. Waddle got hurt. So Smith ended up playing like 37% of his snaps in the slot that season. I think there's a work, and like DeVonta Smith is like, he's an outside receiver in the NFL. It's not like he's a slot guy. I think there's a world where Ohio State can get as creative with Jeremiah as Alabama ended up doing with DeVonta in that season, especially after they had to deal with some of those injuries that would allow for some of this to happen. But I don't know if the sport's there anymore, right? With just like, the guy who won the Heisman had like 35 touchdown passes, right? Like we're not in the world of teams guys having 50 touchdown passes very much anymore. It feels like, so to ask a receiver to do that just feels like a big ask. So I would say he doesn't get there. One other thing I looked up that also made me angry, among the many things that made me angry looking up Jeremiah Smith stats. This is according to Sports Info Solutions. 215 targets over the last 2 years for Jeremiah Smith. Only 31 of them in the red zone. Maybe throw him the ball in the red zone more. Maybe.
How many of them were with like 4 tight ends on the field though?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
You know how many touchdowns he has on his 31 red zone targets? 16.
I was
throw him the ball in the red zone. What are we doing?
In fairness, Bill, I don't know how many red zone catches or touches or whatever you could have when you're scoring on half of them. So I don't know if that number can go super high.
I think it can go high. When you're watching CJ Donaldson take 6 tries from the 2 to get in the end zone, I think you can throw one to Jeremiah and see what happens.
I think this was supposed to be fun. And instead what's happened is Bill and I have just been angry the entire time.
Why the best player in the last 30 years of Ohio State football makes me angry, by Bill Landis and Stephen Means.
I'd read that.
I mean, is this not? Could Jeremiah Smith be their goal line back? Like their goal line play is throw the ball to Jeremiah? Like, is that what you're saying, Landis? Like if it's
yes,
yeah, man. Like,
what get 4 tries at it? He's going to catch one of them.
He only needs one hand to catch the ball.
Yeah.
So if they do that, if it's like, okay, Jeremiah Smith had 15 normal touchdowns and then he had 8 touchdowns from the 1 because they got there and every time they're just like boop, boop, boop. Now we're talking 23. Like that's how you get there.
It takes away from the need to have an explosive running back. It's like, oh, Bo Jackson's going to get hawked down at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's trot out number 4.
Yeah. And it's not like they've been great at it, right? And like, who do we know for sure is the goal line back this year? We don't know for sure right now who it's going to be, do we? So the goal line back is throwing it to Jeremiah Smith.
Can I make Bill angry again?
Please.
It's going to be Jacoby Jackson.
It's like we have.
That's great. I look forward to Hunter Welsing lined up at fullback blocking for Jacoby Jackson, while Jeremiah Smith stands out wide with his hands on his hips.
Yeah, stands on the sideline. When DeVonta Smith had his 23 touchdown catches, the second most receiving touchdowns for Alabama that year was 6 by John Mechie. The last 2 years, Jeremiah last year had 12. Carnell Tate had 9 touchdowns. In 2024, Jeremiah had 15. Emeka Egbuka had 10. Again, this is a little bit like, what if he has all the touchdown receptions? And so, yes, Julian's saying like you probably need to have more. Mac Jones had 41 touchdown passes in 2020. 23 of them were the DeVonta Smith, right? Julian's saying only threw 32 last year. So like that number has to go up, right? If Jeremiah is going to be above 20, Julian's got to be above 40. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't really think it's attainable. But like if we bring in this red zone idea, does it not become attainable? If we start talking about, he had 7 touchdown catches inside the 5, and then he played football the rest of the year and had like an otherwise normal season, and everything that got jacked up is short yardage stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, but which is why I think the clock rules and all that stuff has changed things. But I think this is why we keep coming back to, okay, how does Ohio State want to approach offense this year? And listen, last time we talked today, I didn't get a question, but I'm just very intrigued by what they felt like worked last year, and do they feel like they went too far because they won a national title with that approach? Because if they weren't dead last, but they were close to the bottom and just like plays per game and pace and all that stuff. If they're just the middle of the pack, plays per game type of team, and maybe some of that is veteran offensive coordinator, but some of that it may just be Ryan Day looking like, okay, we don't need to be going 1,000 miles per hour, but we also don't need to be going 5 miles per hour. Then I think it becomes a little bit more attainable because yeah, sure, JJ has 23 touchdowns, 9 of them are explosive play touchdowns. Another 3 or 4 are he took something short and made it an explosive touchdown. And then because they don't necessarily have the explosive back who can hit home runs, maybe Legend Bay's that, but I guess we'll see. If they're getting stopped at the 3-yard line a bunch, then it's just, well, we got 3 plays to throw it up there to JJ. We'll take our chances that he'll catch at least one of those. And so now all of a sudden you add another 7 or so, and then all of a sudden it adds itself up to 23, 24. Sure. Yep. But if they're going to play like they played last year, and the reasoning for it be we can shave 2 whole games off the season and keep ourselves fresh for the playoff, then this was a fun podcast. But we'll be doing it on the video game.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, yeah, you guys will be, you'll be playing EA Sports college football, and like Stephen Means will be like, yeah, Jeremiah had 57 touchdown catches in my season. And Landis will be like, he had 61 in my season. And Ohio State will be like, he had 12 in ours. So, we'll see how that goes. It is fun to talk about. I think everybody watching and listening to this understands, like, you can get a little hyperbolic with Jeremiah Smith, but then actually I don't know that you can. Like, this is the type of skill, the type of potential that we're talking about with a guy like this. Andrew Gillis and Stephen Means, thanks so much for taking time out of your day. All the good folks can find your writing over at cleveland.com/OSU, and of course find you guys dropping Buckeye Talk. Stephen, how many Buckeye Talks you guys dropping on, folks?
5 a week. 5 a week, Monday through Friday. Actually, we are going to go Monday through Thursday once things calm down here. But while there's still, I mean, there's a lot happening. We were in the Woody, I feel like, every day this week. So Monday through Friday, we're coming with stuff. It's a good time to be listening to Buckeye. It's a good time to be listening to Bill and Doug show too. Obviously, yes. This is a great time to be an Ohio State football fan. There's a lot going on in the Woody and a lot to get into. So
yeah. And then, Andrew, we know you're covering a bunch of recruiting stuff as well as what's going on with the football team. I imagine there's always recruiting information to be passing along to folks, is there not?
Especially now, they had a bunch of kids in the Woody this past weekend. There's visits coming up. So yeah, I mean, we are. I think Stephen mentioned this. Like, we're about to kind of pass the mantle to you once we get through spring practice, because May, June, and early parts of July are basically all recruiting. So busy season, here we come.
All right. Very cool. Bill Landis, we're talking over at the Substack, billandogosu.substack.com.
We are indeed still have the annual subscription deal going on, 18% off an annual subscription now through the end of spring football.
All right. So thanks to Andrew Gillis, thanks to Stephen Means, thanks to you guys for watching and listening. And of course, thanks to the guy who made it all possible. There he is. He's Jeremiah Smith. He's a football player for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and he's going to make a very interesting guy to follow this year in 2026. For now, appreciate everybody being here. I'm Doug Lesmerises. That was Around the Shoe on the Bill and Doug Show.